What if everything you've been taught about hydration for the last 50 years is incomplete? You've probably heard it your entire life. Drink 8 glasses of water a day. Stay hydrated. More water equals better health. But according to Dr. Zach Bush, the real story is far more surprising. He argues that simply drinking more water doesn't automatically hydrate your cells. In fact, the body's relationship with water is far more sophisticated than most people realize. If he's right, then hydration isn't just about how much water you drink, it's about how your body stores, organizes, and actually uses it. Today, we're diving into a fascinating perspective that challenges conventional thinking about water, cellular health, and where true vitality may come from. Let's begin. Of us picture water inside the body as a simple liquid flowing through our bloodstream and filling our cells. But Dr. Bush introduces a very different concept. He explains that the majority of water inside healthy cells isn't just free-flowing liquid. Instead, he describes it as existing in a structured, gel-like form, a highly organized state that surrounds proteins inside the cell. To help explain this idea, he compares it to something almost everyone has seen before: Jell-O. When you make Jell-O, the liquid doesn't simply disappear. Instead, the water becomes organized into a stable gel around proteins, creating an entirely different structure. According to Dr. Bush, something remarkably similar happens inside the human body. This structured water, he says, allows cells to function more efficiently than ordinary liquid water alone. And here's where his theory becomes even more intriguing. He suggests that this organized water doesn't simply store moisture, it also stores energy. Specifically, he proposes that sunlight captured by plants during photosynthesis eventually becomes part of the energy system that supports life inside our own cells. Plants convert sunlight into chemical energy. Humans eat those plants, and our bodies process those nutrients to fuel every biological function. In his view, hydration is closely connected to this larger energy process. It's not simply about filling the body with water, it's about creating the conditions that allow water to become organized inside cells. This brings us to one of Dr. Bush's biggest claims. He says that drinking plain water alone doesn't necessarily create this structured environment. Yes, drinking water can temporarily relieve thirst. Yes, it remains essential for survival. But according to his explanation, water by itself moves through the bloodstream rather quickly, unless the body has the minerals, amino acids, proteins, and other biological components needed to incorporate it into the structured cellular state. In other words, hydration isn't only about intake, it's also about transformation. The body has to convert that water into something useful at the cellular level. Without that process, he argues, much of the water simply passes through the body instead of becoming part of long-term cellular hydration. Whether or not every aspect of this interpretation reflects mainstream scientific consensus, it introduces an important question: could improving cellular health involve more than simply drinking larger amounts of water? Dr. Bush then introduces another concept that he believes reflects overall cellular health. He discusses something called phase angle, a measurement commonly obtained through bioelectrical impedance analysis. According to his explanation, people with higher phase angle measurements generally demonstrate healthier cellular function, while lower values tend to appear more frequently in serious illness. He describes an ideal range as being higher than what he commonly observes in clinical practice, and notes that very low values often accompany advanced disease. For him, this measurement represents more than just hydration. It reflects how well cells maintain their structure, communicate, and preserve their internal organization. In his view, disease doesn't suddenly appear overnight. Instead, it develops gradually as the body's cellular systems lose resilience over time. And that idea sets the stage for an even larger question: if our cells are slowly losing their ability to function at their best, what's causing that breakdown in the first place? That's exactly where Dr. Bush takes the conversation next, connecting cellular health, environmental chemicals, and one of the most widely used herbicides in the world, transition. If structured water is only part of the equation, then the next question becomes even more important. What prevents our cells from holding onto that water and energy in the first place? According to Dr. Zach Bush, the answer isn't simply aging. He believes the problem begins with something much deeper, a gradual loss of communication between our cells. Think of the human body as a city with trillions of residents. Every second, those residents are constantly exchanging messages. One cell detects damage, another begins repair, a third sends nutrients exactly where they're needed. This endless communication keeps the body functioning smoothly. But Dr. Bush argues that when this communication network begins to fail, the body slowly loses its ability to repair itself, and that's where he introduces one of the most controversial parts of his theory. He points to the dramatic increase in chronic illness that occurred during the 1990 seconds and early 2000s. Instead of viewing diseases as isolated problems, he believes they are symptoms of a much larger breakdown in the body's internal communication systems. According to Dr. Bush, one environmental factor deserves particular attention: glyphosate, the active ingredient found in many herbicides. He explains that as his laboratory studied glyphosate over many years, they observed that exposure appeared to interfere with communication between cells. In his description, the chemical weakens the boundaries that help cells maintain their normal function, forcing the immune system to work harder while reducing the body's ability to repair itself efficiently. He believes this disruption doesn't happen only in the digestive system. Instead, he argues that it occurs at the level of individual cells throughout the body. That's why, in his view, the phrase leaky gut tells only part of the story. The deeper issue, he says, is that cells begin losing their ability to hold both structured water and the energy needed for healthy function. As this process continues, overall vitality gradually declines, energy drops, recovery slows, and chronic illness becomes more likely. But the conversation doesn't stop there. Dr. Bush says another crucial problem emerges when damaged cells can no longer send effective repair signals. He describes a communication system made up of tiny carbon-based molecules that help cells exchange information rather than acting like traditional nutrients such as vitamins or minerals. He explains these molecules as part of a signaling network that coordinates repair throughout the body. Imagine thousands of emergency responders. If their radios suddenly stopped working, accidents would still happen, but no one would know where help was needed. According to Dr. Bush, that's similar to what occurs when cellular communication begins to fail. Damage accumulates because repair signals are no longer reaching their destination. He further explains that cancer is not the beginning of the problem, but the end point of years of unrepaired cellular injury. In his words, a cancer cell represents a cell that has accumulated thousands of genetic injuries without successful repair. This perspective shifts the conversation away from treating symptoms alone and toward understanding what allows healthy repair to happen in the first place. So, if communication is failing, where does the body find a backup system? Dr. Bush says the answer lies in something scientists have become increasingly interested in over the past decade: the microbiome. People think of the microbiome simply as gut bacteria, but Dr. Bush describes it as something far more complex. He says it's an enormous ecosystem made up of bacteria, fungi, protozoa, and countless other organisms that constantly exchange information with one another. According to his explanation, these microbes also produce small carbon-based signaling molecules that help information travel throughout the body's watery environment, including the structured gel-like water inside our cells. Rather than focusing on individual good or bad bacteria, he emphasizes biodiversity. In his view, Health comes from maintaining a balanced ecosystem, not eliminating every microorganism that seems undesirable. The greater the diversity, the stronger the system becomes. And that realization leads directly to an even bigger question. Biodiversity is essential inside our bodies. What about the biodiversity beneath our feet? In the next section, Dr. Bush connects human health to soil health and explains why he believes modern agriculture may be influencing far more than the food on our plates. Transition: if the microbiome inside your body depends on biodiversity, then where does that biodiversity begin? According to Dr. Zach Bush, the answer starts beneath our feet in the soil, and this, he says, is where modern health and modern agriculture become deeply connected. Most of us think of soil as nothing more than dirt, something plants grow in, but Dr. Bush describes it very differently. He calls soil one of the most complex living ecosystems on Earth. To illustrate its complexity, he points out that a single teaspoon of healthy soil contains more living organisms than there are people on the entire planet. That's almost impossible to imagine. Within that tiny handful of Earth exists an enormous network of bacteria, fungi, microbes, insects, and countless other organisms, all interacting with one another every second. According to Dr. Bush, this incredible biodiversity is what allows soil to remain alive, and healthy soil, he argues, is the foundation of healthy food. For decades, people have talked about good bacteria and bad bacteria, but Dr. Bush says this way of thinking is too simplistic. Instead, he argues that the real goal should be maintaining a balanced ecosystem. A healthy microbiome isn't built by maximizing one species, it's built by encouraging diversity. The same principle, he says, applies to soil. When biodiversity flourishes, ecosystems become stronger, more resilient, and better able to support life. But when diversity disappears, problems begin to multiply. Dr. Bush believes modern chemical farming has accelerated that loss of biodiversity. He explains that many agricultural chemicals don't simply eliminate weeds. According to his description, they also reduce the microbial life that healthy soil depends on. He specifically discusses glyphosate, noting that it has antimicrobial properties and arguing that widespread use damages the living ecosystem beneath crops. From his perspective, this creates a chain reaction. Damaged soil produces less resilient crops. Those crops support a less diverse gut microbiome, and over time, human health may also suffer. Whether or not every aspect of this causal chain reflects scientific consensus, this is the framework Dr. Bush presents throughout the discussion. This leads to one of his central ideas. He believes farming should focus less on maximizing crop yield and more on restoring life to the soil itself. He points to the principles of regenerative agriculture, describing it as an approach that encourages biodiversity rather than relying heavily on chemical inputs. Instead of constantly asking, "What should we kill today?" he believes farmers should ask, "How can we create more life today?" According to Dr. Bush, this shift in mindset changes everything. Healthy soil supports healthier plants. Healthier plants support healthier ecosystems. And healthier ecosystems ultimately support healthier people. But his concerns extend far beyond farming practices. He also questions the way modern societies produce and distribute food. Dr. Bush notes that many countries now depend on food transported thousands of miles before it reaches grocery stores. He argues this creates a fragile system, one that can be disrupted by natural disasters, supply chain interruptions, or economic crises. To illustrate this vulnerability, he points to the food shortages many communities experienced during the pandemic. Empty shelves weren't necessarily caused by a lack of food. Instead, transportation networks had been disrupted. According to Dr. Bush, this exposed just how dependent many cities have become on distant supply chains rather than local food production. One of his most memorable examples involves something many homeowners rarely think about: lawns. He notes that millions of acres are devoted to decorative grass. Then he asks a provocative question: what if even a portion of that land were converted into gardens filled with fruits, vegetables, herbs, and other edible plants? According to Dr. Bush, communities could become more resilient while reconnecting people with the source of their food. His broader message isn't simply about growing vegetables, it's about rebuilding a relationship with nature. He believes that when people reconnect with healthy soil, they also reconnect with the biological systems that sustain human health. And that idea leads naturally to the final part of this conversation. If modern society has become disconnected from nature, how can individuals begin reversing that trend in their own daily lives? That's exactly what we'll explore in the final section. Transition. So far, we've explored Dr. Zach Bush's perspective on structured water, cellular communication, the microbiome, and the importance of healthy soil. But one big question remains: what can people actually do with this information? According to Dr. Bush, improving health isn't about finding a miracle supplement or following another short-term trend. Instead, he believes it's about rebuilding our relationship with nature. The interviewer asks a practical question that many viewers are probably wondering themselves: is it still possible to live an optimal life if most of our food comes from supermarkets? Rather than offering a simple yes or no, Dr. Bush points to something he witnessed during the pandemic. When grocery store shelves emptied, something unexpected happened. Across many communities, people began buying seeds. Home gardening surged. Families who had never grown food before suddenly wanted to learn. According to Dr. Bush, this wasn't just a reaction to temporary shortages. He believes it reflected a deeper human instinct, a desire to reconnect with the land and regain some control over where food comes from. He also describes a growing movement of people leaving cities to begin farming. Many, he says, have little or no agricultural experience, yet they're motivated by something beyond economics. They want community, they want connection, and they want a healthier relationship with the environment that sustains them. Dr. Bush notes that regenerative agriculture has been driven largely by younger generations and by many women, whom he associates with a nurturing approach to restoring ecosystems and strengthening communities. For him, regenerative agriculture isn't simply a farming technique, it's a different philosophy. Instead of trying to dominate nature, he encourages listening to it, understanding what a particular piece of land naturally supports, and working with those conditions rather than constantly forcing them to change. But Dr. Bush believes this idea extends beyond food. He argues that biodiversity matters in every aspect of life, including the information we consume. He cautions against relying exclusively on a single source of news or perspective, suggesting that a narrow stream of information can limit how we think. By contrast, he encourages spending time outdoors, walking through forests, observing plants, touching healthy soil, and experiencing the complexity of the natural world firsthand. According to Dr. Bush, nature reminds us that life is interconnected. The more we engage with that complexity, the more resilient our thinking and perhaps even our well-being can become. So what are the key takeaways from Dr. Bush's perspective? He suggests that hydration is about more than simply drinking water. It's also about how the body organizes and uses it at the cellular level. Healthy cells depend on effective communication, and disruptions to those systems may contribute to declining health. The microbiome thrives on biodiversity rather than the dominance of any single organism. Healthy soil plays a critical role in producing resilient food systems. Reconnecting with nature, whether through gardening, spending time outdoors, or supporting healthier ecosystems, may help strengthen our relationship with the environment that supports us. It's important to note that several of Dr. Bush's broader interpretations, particularly those concerning structured water, glyphosate, and disease mechanisms, are subjects of ongoing scientific discussion and are not universally accepted within mainstream medicine. This video presents his viewpoints as expressed in the source interview, rather than established medical consensus. Outro. Whether you agree with every claim or not, one message stands out clearly: our health doesn't exist in isolation. It's connected to the food we eat, the soil that grows it, the microbes that live within us, and the environment we create around ourselves. Perhaps the biggest lesson isn't simply to drink more water or buy another health product. Perhaps it's to ask a deeper question: how closely are we connected to the natural systems that make life possible? If you found this discussion thought-provoking, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think modern health has become too disconnected from nature? If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next deep dive into the science, ideas, and conversations shaping our understanding of health.